time to talk tech.
Yes,
tech. Let's talk tools, gear, and all the nerdy stuff.
Right, data wrangling.
Data wrangling, yes. So let's first talk about the tools that you use and the tools that you like for game development.
Yeah, well currently we use Unity, and that actually is really like an all-in-one type tool. I mean, you can actually, it has an editor that you can customize with scripts. You can use either C# or JavaScript, and you can code the actual gameplay logic with those, and you have extensive shader control. There's like 3 different languages you can use to actually like program shaders in Unity.
So we used to use Cocos 2DX.
Right. We our first game was actually Ambion was written in Cocos 2D, which is basically Objective-C. And then I rewrote everything because after we figured out we wanted to make it cross-platform, I rewrote all of Ambion in C++ with the Cocos 2DX engine, which is the Cocos 2D cross-platform engine.
So why would somebody choose, for example, they're all great products, but why would somebody choose, say, Unity over Cocos 2DX?
Unity actually, because it has the editor. That's one thing. Is you can actually you can just look at what you're doing, and you can kind of share that with other team members. So, for example, if you wanted to edit a stage visually, you could use your package of Unity to kind of go in there and edit it visually, instead of me actually making a tool for you to edit that.
Right.
So that's just out of the box. It's just very useful, and it's very useful for building a game for many different platforms.
Right.
And
okay.
yeah, I think just the visual aspect is really helpful for a lot of people.
What would be your, so if Unity is the #1 tool that you're using for game development, what would be the #2 tool that you use at the moment?
That's a good question.
Do you have a text editor or like?
Oh, right. I'm not a big fan of monodevelop for Unity. Actually, it's kind of a bit buggy.
You should try Sublime Text.
Right.
Sublime Editor. Sorry. Sublime.
Okay.
Sublime.
Okay. I use Text Wrangler just for like random like JavaScript stuff when I'm not messing with Unity, but Xcode, I like Xcode a lot. It's just the straight up Mac software editor, and I really like that actually. I've had some hardships with it before, but I've come to terms with it.
Right, you've made your peace.
Yeah, I've made my peace. Other than that, I do like writing my own tools when it's necessary. I think I'm that kind of I have that personality where if there's a need to be met, I just like hammering out like a problem, like a fix for it. Right. So for Ambion, when we were doing the localization, we had all of the different text in Google Docs in a spreadsheet, and I wrote a PHP script that scraped the data from Google Docs and exported it into an XML file that Cocos 2DX could then read and display the proper text for the different language. Right. And that was really fun and very fulfilling. And when I was working at Q Games, I made a lot of tools using Python and NellScript, which is a scripting language for Maya.
All right.
And that made a lot of the artists happy on the Star Fox 3D team. And that was actually when I really learned programming. Actually, it was like kind of making these little tools in Python and NellScript, and that was really fulfilling too, because it's like I saw this need, and I just made this little tool that fixed everything very quickly for like a bunch of people, and they could all get on with their jobs. And I think that's one of the key roles for a tech artist is kind of like finding like a small problem to solve and then solving it. And you need a little bit of programming knowledge and a little bit of art, computer art knowledge. Right. And anyway, it's really fun to kind of like bridge the gap there. But what about you? You use a lot of tools because you do both art and audio design for Winning Blimp.
Right. Yeah. Actually, really only two. The two that I was for art. One thing that many people don't know about us is actually all of our art is actually done in vector. So I use Adobe Illustrator. I've never been very good at Photoshop.
No pixel pushing?
No pixel pushing. No, me it's Bezier pushing.
Bezier handle.
Spline pushing.
Twisting.
Yeah, I've always felt, I think because I first started with graphic design, web design, and then industrial design, I think Illustrator is the tool of choice, simply for print design, obviously, because you need that resolution.
Right.
Or you need resolution independent graphics.
Scaling, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so I've always just been most comfortable with that. And so yeah, as a result, all of the art that we do is done in Illustrator. I get Illustrator files very, very large, like several hundred layers for one of our game interfaces, and you need to be very, very organized.
Right.
Because every time you create a spline or in an Illustrator file, it becomes an object that's listed in this huge long list, and if you're not really organized about what is what and what is above and below what and
the hierarchy,
it can get very unwieldy very, very quickly. So I'm very, very organized to an extreme level and making sure everything is neatly organized.
OCD.
Yes, possibly a little bit of that. As for sound, I absolutely adore a digital audio workstation that is not so well known, but is called Renoise, which is a tracker music program. The Tracker, just for people who don't know, back in the real early days when music for games became much more important and much more in the forefront of the game design, back on the Amiga, also Commodore 64 too, but on the Amiga, there began these music programs called tracker programs. Basically what it is it's a vertically, you see it as the music as a vertically scrolling list of notes, basically. So you'd have one sample, and each note in this vertically scrolling list of text would be triggering that sample at a certain pitch.
Okay.
That's basically how it works, and so it just feels very natural to me now. But also the other reason that I use Renoise is because it is, I always say this is it's the greatest piece of software for doing anything on any computer ever. In all time, in all the universe.
I've seen images of Renoise.
It's so solid.
It looks like Stratolith.
It does a bit. It's so solid, and it's so. They're very, very conscious about having an ultra streamlined workflow. Everything is really, really fast, and I think when you're wanting to get the music down quickly, I've never had that feeling of hindrance, like I want to do this. It's like, I've got to do this, that, and then this and that. And that whole aspect of process is sort of removed, and it's very direct. What you see up there is exactly what you get, and that's another reason I enjoy using it, just because it's so streamlined and so fast.
Nice. Is there a difference? So, like, what's the opposite of a tracker program? Are there other options out there?
The more common programs like Logic. And Pro Tools and what we call horizontally scrolling DAWs, digital audio workstations. So you see the music instead as waveforms that are scrolling horizontally across the screen.
Okay.
That's much easier if you're wanting to do things like basically create a chunk of music here, copy it over there, move it that to there, and sort of arranging chunks of your music around on a long horizontal timeline.
Okay.
It's very, very good for that. Tracker music, it does kind of channel you into a certain workflow where you're creating music in a very linear fashion. Okay. So you're creating, rather than thinking about here's a drum beat and here's a bass line and I'll put that there and I'll copy that over there and copy that there. With tracker music you can do that, but it's much easier with tracker music to actually create the music from start to finish, just gradually going through the music start to finish, instead of like creating this part, putting that there and then copying it there and there. And I just find it stimulates me into creating music that's a bit more structurally interesting than just the average A section, B section, A section, end. Okay. Something that's a bit more structurally interesting and more sort of linear. So you feel like the music's going in a certain direction as opposed to, that's that part, it was in the start as well.
Right. So instead of copy pasting stuff, you're actually having like this cohesive song.
It tends to help you think about the music in more of a sort of an overall looking at the whole piece of music instead of just chunks of it that are copied here and there. Gotcha. So it's helpful for that. So yeah, Illustrator, Vectors, and Renoise. I guess other than Unity, which is a very popular product for game development, we're a bit unusual.
Yeah.
Codebase 2DX is.
Well, that's not terribly uncommon, really. I mean, the other thing to do as far as software is just to roll your own engine basically. But I think that's in the age of trying to build for all these different platforms, it's very inefficient because you're going to be writing the engine hopefully you're writing the engine to be abstracted from the device, but you still have to have a layer somewhere in there that interfaces with the device. So you might have your abstraction layer as far as like, when you're actually accessing sprites and stuff like that. That should all be the same no matter what device, but then when you're actually programming for the different devices, you're going to have to spend a good chunk of time just trying to handle all of the intricacies of that specific device. And if you don't have a big team to just kind of do those little small tasks for you, then you're going to be doing it on your own, which I'd be doing. So in that case, I think Unity, things like Unity and Cocos 2DX are really helpful because it just handles all of that for you.
Right.
So you are just interfacing with like the higher level stuff where you don't have to worry about the low level hardware interfacing because that would be a little bit of a rabbit hole that you have to do for each device and takes up a lot of time. So so I think things like Unity are just super helpful to the whole like indie boom that we're experiencing now.
Right. So that's tech with Winning Blimp.
Yes, tech with a capital T.